Okay, we're going to complete the square with this quadratic equation. The first thing I notice is that I have a 5 out in front, so I'm going to divide everything by 5 on the right-hand side and on the left-hand side. So that's going to leave me with n squared, because 5 divided by 5 is just n. Now here I'm going to get a fraction. I'm just going to leave it as an improper fraction, and here I also get an improper fraction. And here I get 0. Okay. The next step is to move the c term to the other side. And I know that these are fractions, but we can still do this process, so try not to freak out, and we're going to go through it step by step. Okay, I'm going to move this c term over, because that's what I always do, is I move the c term over. So I'm going to add 68/5 to each side. So that's going to leave me with n squared plus 19/5 n. I'm going to leave a space so I can complete my square, and 68 over 5. So I'm trying to come up with the perfect value here to make this factor. So again, I'm going to still use that formula, even though these are fractions. I'm still going to use the formula b over 2 squared. Okay? Now in this case, my b value is 19 over 5. I'm cutting that in half and squaring it. We're going to have to do a little bit of fraction work here. When you're dividing with fractions, it's the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocals. I'm going to multiply by 1/2 and square it. So that's going to be 19 over 10 squared. And we're going to get a big number, but that's quite all right. 19 squared is, let's see, 361 over 100. I'm just going to leave it like that. So I'm going to add 361 over 100 to each side. Okay. Now what I need to do is simplify. Let me erase this work right here. For these types of problems where you have fractions, you're going to have to do a lot of work over on the side of your paper if you don't have a calculator. Alright, so this is going to factor into n plus something and n plus something. And you have to ask yourself, what did you multiply together to get 361? Well, that was 19 and 19. And what did you multiply together to get 100? That was 10 and 10. Okay? So when it's fractions, just take each numerator and each denominator part separately, and you can figure it out pretty quickly. Over here, I'm going to have to come up with common denominators. So 68/5 plus 361 over 100. I think a good common denominator would be 100. So I'm going to multiply that first fraction, top and bottom, by 20. So let's see, 68 times 20 would give me 1360 over 100 plus 361 over 100. When I add 361 to that, I'm going to get 1721 over 100. I know this seems huge and scary to some of you, but again, try not to freak out. You'll see it's going to work out really, really nice, hopefully. It will. It'll be fine. Okay. So now, come up here and give myself more space. I can rewrite this as n plus 19 tenths quantity squared equals 1721 over 100. So the process hasn't changed, it's just we have kind of yucky numbers that we're dealing with right now. Again, I want to move the 19 tenths over, but I can't because of the square, so I'm going to take the square root of each side. And that leaves me with n equals, n plus 19 tenths equals, again, it's a square root, so I have to take plus or minus. And when you take the square root of a fraction, you do the square root of the numerator and the square root of the denominator. So that's the square root of 1721 over, well, the square root of 100 is just n, so that worked out really nice. And now, the only thing left to do is subtract 19 tenths from both sides. my final answer is going to be negative 19 tenths plus or minus the square root of 1721 over 10. I should probably take a moment and see if this square root of 1721 is going to reduce using perfect squares. Let's see, 15 squared is 225. Half of 1721 would give me 860. So I need to check the perfect squares up until 860.5. So let's see, 18 squared is 324. And this might take a moment for you to do, which that's quite all right. But you check all the perfect squares up to 860, and none of them will reduce the 1721, so that is your final answer.